Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to Global News, episode 96. 96! That's right, guys. We're going to hit episode 100 in just a couple of weeks' time. We could technically hit it in January. Yeah, we're gonna hit. We could hit it in January actually, based on the unbelievable, guys. 100 episodes of this series. We've gone from transition from the Snowflake Corner where we changed it from Snowflake Corner to Global News, and we've covered over 96 live streams of foreign news outside the UK. It's pretty fascinating stuff. We've covered all sorts of stuff, guys. Some stuff really uncomfortable, and all sorts. It's been a very fascinating here, to say the least. So for those who normally I do it at 6 o'clock. For those who are unaware, normally I do this at 6 o'clock, but Witchy Goth had already scheduled her live stream, so I wanted her to let her do her live stream there, as that's why we're doing it at 7 o'clock. I've only got 5 stories, guys. Because I want to keep it under an hour and a half. I want to be finished before Max goes live at 8:30. He is going live tonight, just for reference, if anyone's curious there. So I didn't want to get in the way of his live stream. I have no idea if Graham Hughes is doing geoscopes at 7:30. I imagine he's probably not. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's doing a big show tonight at 9 o'clock. So I don't know if he is still doing geoscopes tonight or not, but this show I really have to juggle, because I don't know when's the right time to do this show, because I can't do it at 8 o'clock because it clashes with Max's, and I can't do it normally at 7 o'clock because I don't really want to clash with Politics Social. There's too many people that I'm clashing with, and my understanding is that when I was doing it at 6 o'clock, I was clashing a lot with the Bin podcast as well. So that kind of that's kind of throwing a spanner into the works of when to do this live stream. But for now, I will be keeping it at 6, going back to 6 o'clock next week, every Tuesday, just for reference there. But I'll just, before I come to you guys in the chat, just let you guys know. So we got 5 different stories. We're going to be looking at the midterms coming up next year for the Democrats in America. We're going to be looking at this extraordinary story that's been happening today over the UAE and its and with Yemen and Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia story. It's a very fascinating story indeed. I've watched a video on it from Al Jazeera. I'm very interested to hear what you guys think of it all. An alleged drone attack on Putin's residence offers the Kremlin a timely narrative shift. That's from NBC News. We'll look at that. We'll also look at an Israeli strikes on Gaza as relentless, as displaced, enduring flooded camps. So yes, we are going to talk about that. It has been a while since I've touched on Gaza, but I'll be touching on it a lot more next week on Rumble as well, because I'll be bringing those videos back next week for reference there. And then finally, we're going to be looking at this last story about the UN Security Council divided over Israel's reconciliation of Somaliland. Yeah, it's a very odd story there. And then we got the funny memes at the end of the show. For those who don't know, on this live stream in particular, we always do funny memes at the end of the show, just for something in here. No funny video today. That's because, for those who don't know, and the link is in the description as well, tomorrow at I think it's got it at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Tomorrow, New Year's Eve, I've got a premiere video for you guys dropping with a bunch of funny news and funny videos for going about just under an hour, just roughly under an hour for you guys. So I've got a video for you I put together for you guys for a bit of fun. So if you've got no live stream to attend to tomorrow evening, if you've got no plans, you guys can attend that premiere video that I've put together today. Do check it out. Link for it is in the description there. So and I've got a Christmas jumper, Christmas hat on one more time for you guys. So I know you guys enjoyed the Christmas Eve show. Well, we got a New Year's Eve show for you guys there. So I've got that ready for you guys for tomorrow evening. Just a quick reminder as well, there will be another Good Morning show as well tomorrow, 11 a.m. for New Year's Eve. But there will not be a Good Morning show on Friday. What I'm going to do instead on New Year's Day is there will be a Good Evening show. Which will be a little bit weird. So I'll be doing that at 8 o'clock instead. It'll be a bit it will be a bit noisy, because there will be there'll be some noise in the house at that time as well, for reference there as well. I know a lot of people. I see quite a few people have come from Witchy Goth's YouTube channel. So hello everyone. Hope you guys are all doing well. Jao, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. Robert, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. E. Hope you are well. Stephen Banker, one of our new moderators. Good to see you there. Hope you are doing well as well. Ellie, good to see you there. Hope you're doing well. Kirsty Hamilton. Pete's Music, good to see you, Pete. Hope you are doing well. And I hope I haven't missed anyone. A Revered Wolf, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. Dave McGuinness, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well as well. I think that's everyone I've covered there. Yep, do check out David's YouTube channel. They'll be back live. They'll be back live on Monday, just for reference. Right, let's get going, guys, because I'll be spending quite a few minutes there talking. So obviously, the first story I want to touch on is the one here from the Associated Press, which I've just mentioned a bit before. I need to sort out the camera, don't I? Because of where I'm sitting. So, after a quiet off year of elections, Democrats renew worried about Trump interfering in the midterms. I think they should be. Let me see what I can do about the camera there. Let me just move. Let's try that. CC. I think that's a lot better for you guys. There. So yeah, we got the midterms coming up next year. Obviously, it's going to be very, very fascinating to see. There's a lot of pressure on the Democrats to do well in the midterms. But there is a question about interference, and I'm generally there has been speculation, lots of speculation about whether or not the midterms were even going to go ahead, because many people thought that Trump would do something to end it, and do something about it. I think the midterms are still going to go ahead, but I generally believe there will be interference. I don't know what, I don't know how, but I do believe there's going to be some kind of interference that's going to try to stifle the Democrats from gaining seats in enough seats in the House in order for them to take back control of the House. That's the main thing. They can't win the Senate. That's not going to happen. But they can win back the House, because the Republicans only have a slight majority in the U.S. In Congress, only a slight majority, and that's a really big one there. There. Well, Dave McGuinness or Mr. Mulligan, I hope you are both. I hope, if that is whichever, I hope both of you guys are doing well. I generally mean that. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you both. And I hope Mr. Mulligan will be back for the show on Monday. I really hope so. We do miss it. We do miss him. We do miss him indeed. There. And Giles provide a link to their YouTube channel as well. I'm very concerned about what's going to happen here, because yeah, I do feel like, considering the lines that they have been pushing, like interference, it does feel quite inevitable here. It really, really does. So if history is a guide, Republicans stand a good chance of losing control of the House of Representatives in 2026. They just have a slim majority in the chamber, and the incumbent party usually gives up its seats in the midterm elections. So President Donald Trump, whose loss of the House halfway through the first term led to 2 impeachments, is trying to keep history from repeating, and doing so in ways his opponents say are intended to manipulate next year's election landscape. And he has rallied his party to make congressional maps across the country to create more conservative-leaning House seats in an effort that could end up backfiring on him. Yeah, so what they've been trying to do, the Republicans, especially in deep red states, they have been trying to redistrict the congressional maps, as it says there, in order to try and show up more seats in the House, in order to have more seats, basically, is what they've been trying to do. And they've had they've had some problems in the courts doing so, though. Because the problem is that it's looked like that what they've been doing is obviously racial profiling to a certain extent, which is what it is. In an effort to show up and gain more seats, is what they've been doing. Maps that would go more in their favour is what they've been trying to do. Trump pulls out all the false flag events like a blind man fishing for a nickel. Yeah, he does. Yeah. He directed he's rallied his party to make congressional maps. Yep, sorry, I read that. So an effort could end up backfiring on him. He's directed his administration to target Democratic politicians, activists, and donors, and Democrats worry he's flexing his muscles to intervene in the midterms like no administration ever has. But here's the thing, like, it could actually backfire for Trump, because Trump isn't super popular right now. Like, the Epstein files, like, the one thing that's going in his direction, the one policy that is going in his direction is immigration. That's the one thing he's definitely going in his way. The crackdown on what ICE have been doing, and all that, for all those people who have issues with immigration. That's the one policy that's been going well for him. All other policies, the economy, farmland, healthcare, all the other policies are not being good in his favour. They have not been good. They have dipped in terms of Republican favour. Obviously, Democrats but independents, they've definitely dropped as well. But the one thing that's keeping supporters on his side is what he's doing with immigration. But but the question is actually, is he making Americans better off? The obvious answer is no. But how many Americans are actually seeing that? There's still a lot of Americans out there, regardless of how bad things are, they're still going to vote for Trump. There's a lot that do regret it, but I wonder how much of Trump getting behind certain Republican candidates. I wonder if how much of that will benefit the candidate or actually detrimental to the candidate, because there may be some states in some parts where in certain red areas or purple areas, because they'll be fighting between Democrats and Republicans, of how much of that is actually going to benefit Trump being involved, helping in making his face there, or maybe not being involved because it might actually be more beneficial to the Republican candidate. So I think that's a very good question there as well. Any election held with Trump as a president is always susceptible of being rigged. Yes, says Jack. Yeah, this is the other thing as well. I do wonder that as well. So Democrats and other critics point out to how Trump has sent his military into Democratic cities over the objectives of Democratic mayors and governors. They note that he's pushed the Department of Homeland Security to be so aggressive that at one point his agent handcuffed a U.S. Democrat senator, and some warned that a Republican-controlled Congress could fail to win seats winning candidates if Democrats reclaim the House majority. They're calling Trump's effort to stay in power even after voters reject him in 2020, leading to violent attacks by supporters on the U.S. Capitol. Regarding potential military deployment, Ken Martin, chairman of the Democratic National Committee, told the Associated Press what he's going to do is send those troops there and keep them there all the way through the next election. Because guess what? If people are afraid of leaving their house, they're probably going to leave their house to go and vote on election day, and that's how he stays in power. This is very powerful. This is very powerful and intimidating. Putting military troops, National Guard troops, around voter booths can be very intimidating. Very, very intimidating. That can put people off actually wanting to be there and actually wanting to cast their vote. Obviously it could be even worse. Like even Americans who have dual citizenship or dual nationality, and if they're not white, they could be feel intimidated. I think there's reports as well that they could potentially be putting ICE troops around them as well as another tactic to scare people off as well. Democrats sound similar alarms just before November's election, and yet there were no significant instances. California Governor Gavin Newsom, a frequent Trump antagonist who also warned about a federal crackdown on voting in 2026, predicted that masked immigration agents would show up at the polls in his state, where voters were considering a ballot measure to counter Trump's redistricting push. There were no such incidents in November, and the measures to redraw California's congressional lines in response to Trump efforts elsewhere won in a landslide. So the White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson said the concerns about the midterms come from Democratic politicians who are fear-mongering to score political points with the radical left flank of the Democratic Party that they are courting ahead of their doomed-to-fail presidential campaigns. She described their concerns as baseless conspiracy theories. Susan Wiles, Trump's chief of staff, denied that Trump was planning to use the military to try and suppress votes. I say this is categorically false. It will not happen. It's just wrong-headed, she told Vanity Fair for an interview that was published earlier in December. Don't buy this. Like this can change at a whim. It can change at a whim there. So I wouldn't trust a single thing coming out of this White House. DNC's litigation director Dan Freeman said he hasn't seen an incident that Trump will send immigration enforcement agents to polling places during the midterms, but is wary. He said the DNC filed public records requests in an attempt to learn more about any such plans, and is drafting legal pleadings that it could file if Trump sends Army federal agents to the polls or otherwise interventions in the elections. We're not taking their word for it, Freeman said in an interview. November's off-year elections may not be the best indicator of what could lie ahead. There was scattered of a handful of states, and Trump showed only modest interest until late in the fall when his Department of Justice announced it was sending federal monitors to California and New Jersey to observe voting in a handful of counties. It was a bureaucratic step that had no impact on voting, even as it triggered alarm for Democrats. Alexandra Shanjo, the legal director of Protect Democracy, a group that has clashed with Trump over his role in the elections, said she was heartened by the lack of drama during the 2025 voting. There were so many positive times that we can look to, Chandler said, citing not only to a quiet election, but GOP senators' resistance to Trump's demands to eliminate the filibuster and the widespread resistance to Trump's demands that television host Jimmy Kimmel lose his job because of his criticism of the president. There are limits on Trump's power, she noted. We will have elections in 2026, Chandler said. People don't have to worry about that. Under the Constitution, the president has limited tools to intervene in elections, which are run by the states. Congress can help set rules for federal elections, but states administrators their own election operatives and oversee the counting of ballots. When Trump tried to single-handedly reverse election rules with a sweeping executive order shortly after returning to office, the court stepped in and stopped him, citing a lack of constitutional role for the president. Trump later promised another order, possibly targeting mail ballots and voting machines, but it is yet to materialize. He might be saving it right close to the deadlock, possibly, but it'll come across some problems there. Was appeared at 2 Davis was it? And no worries, David. Good to see you there, my friend. There's plenty of ways the president can cause problems. Yep. Trump unsuccessfully pushed Georgia's top election official to find him enough votes to declare the winner there in 2020 and could similar tactics in Republican-dominated states in November. Likewise, Hunson said, Trump could spread misinformation and undermine confidence in vote tallies, as he has done routinely ahead of elections. He literally undermined the Honduran election. He undermined the Honduran election a couple of weeks ago. I think it was like last week or the week before. And the election actually went the way it wanted to. And I generally believe it's because he got involved in it. It also was the same with what's the other election? Argentina's midterms elections as well. Earlier this year, he got involved in that, basically saying, "Vote for Mendy's party, people, and I will provide money towards it." He's already interfered in foreign elections. Like, you're going to tell me he's not going to interfere in the local elections? Like, come on. It's hard to do that in more lopsided contests, as many as 2025 turned into, Hassan noted. Concerns about Trump interfering in 2026 are real. They're not frivolous, Hassan said. They're also not but they're also not likely. These are people that they need to be on guard for. So one administration move has alarmed election officials is a federal demand on his Department of Justice. For detailed voter data over the states, the administration has sued the District of Columbia and at least 21 states, most of them controlled by Democrats, after they refused to turn over all the information the DOJ sought. What the DOJ is trying to do is something that should frighten everybody across the political spectrum, said David Becker, former Justice Department voting rights attorney and executive director at the Center for Election Innovation and Research. They're trying to use the power of the executive to bully states into turning overly highly sensitive data of birth, social security numbers, driver license, the holy trinity of identity theft, hand it over to the DOJ for who knows what use. Yeah, that's pretty dangerous stuff. Far right lawyers and election officials have been preparing for months for the midterms, trying to ensure that there are ways to counter misinformation and ensure state election systems are easy to explain. And both major parties are expected to stand up significant campaigns around the mechanics of voting. Democrat mounting what they call a voter protection effort to monitor the problems, while Republicans focus on what they call election integrity. Freeman, the DNC litigation director who previously worked in the DOJ's voting section, said his hiring this year was part of a larger effort by the DNC to beef up in its in-house legal efforts ahead of the midterms. He said the committee has been filling gaps in voting rights laws enforcement that the DOJ has typically covered, including informing states that they can't legally purge citizens from their voter rights. Tina Barton, co-chair of the Committee of Safe and Secure Elections, a coalition of law enforcement and election officials who advise jurisdictions on de-escalation and how to respond to emergencies at polling places, said interest in the group's training has exploded in recent weeks. There's a lot at stake, and it's going to cause a lot of emotions, Barton said. Yeah, this is what we're going to be seeing. This is definitely what you're going to be seeing over the next coming months in the run-up to the midterms next year. It's going to be big. It really, really is. I really hope that there isn't too much interference, but I fear it is going to happen. I really, really do think it's going to happen at some point. It's going to happen during it. Forbes and international agencies said the only thing sustaining about the American economy is the AI bubble, and it's going to burst eventually. I have my popcorn, says Jal. Yeah, the AI bubble. The AI bubble is going to burst. People, shouldn't put all their eggs in one basket. I can watch on real time the votes being counted and watch over by 3 different entities develop independence among themselves, plus an EU observer. That's Portugal's voting system, Joe, as I'm assuming. Sorry there. Stephen Banker says no address, no vote. Surely there are things in place for homeless to vote, as there is in Britain. I would hope so. I would hope so. There, I would hope so. But it's going to be. I really hope, like, it really will put a check on Donald Trump to if they get back the House. It really would be a huge check on the Donald Trump, and it could potentially be the start of the downfall of him. Potentially, you know, there's a lot of Republicans who are just waiting for him to fall. You know, they don't like he's not favorable whatsoever. They're, you know, he's because of the MAGA base and whatnot. They're waiting for him to blow up, and I hope he does. I hope this year it does. You know, things start falling apart for him. Witchy Goth, good to see you there, my friend. Hope you are doing well, guys. I know some of you guys came from Witchy Goth's live stream, but if you didn't, do check out her YouTube channel as well. Myself and Witchy Goth will be doing a mental health live stream on the Friday, the 9th of January at 3 p.m. If you guys want to join us for that. Really looking forward to. I'm really grateful to have her on and talk about a very serious topic about mental health. I know people want to talk about it and want me to cover it, and I think it's quite fitting that in early January we cover that there. I wasn't sure when to do it, but I think Friday 3 p.m. give us a good 2 hours before Friday Frolics on at 5 p.m. with Daily Blase. I thought that would be a good time slot for us. So if you guys can join us for that, feel free to do so. That'd be greatly appreciated. But yeah, we will continue to keep an eye on what's happening there, and I will be doing videos with regards to America on Patreon. I'll be starting that next week as well. So for those who join the Patreon as well, it's both for paid and free members. That content that's going to be coming out, just for reference there. But that'll be there just for reference there. Right, next story I've got for you guys, a very fascinating one from Middle Eastern Eye here. So the United Arab Emirates have announced withdrawal of its forces from Yemen following Saudi criticism. This is quite concerning indeed. So Emirate Defense Ministry said it was making decisions of its own violations after Saudi strikes and condemnation. So let me read a bit more into this, guys, before I give my thoughts, because I want you guys to get a bit of context behind all this, before I share my thoughts, okay? So the UAE has announced it will withdraw its military personnel from Yemen hours after the Saudi Arabia struck its Yemenis allies and made an extremely rare public condemnation of Abu Dhabi's conduct in the country. Okay, the Emirates Defense Ministry said in a statement that in light of recent developments, it was announcing the termination of the remaining counter-terrorism personnel in Yemen of its own violation. The ministry said Abu Dhabi had participated in an Arab coalition supporting the internationally recognized government of Yemen since 2015. It stated that while UAE forces have mostly concluded their role in 2019, specialist teams remained to work on counter-terrorism efforts alongside international partners. It added, in light of the recent developments and the potential repercussions that may affect the safety and effectiveness of counter-terrorism missions, the Ministry of Defense announced its determination and the remaining counter-terrorism teams in Yemen and of its own violation, in a manner that ensures the safety of its personnel and in coordination with the relevant partners. Mohammed al-Bashir, an expert on Yemen and founder of the Bashir Report, a US-based risk advocacy, said most of UAE's military forces and hardware have withdrawn from Yemen 6 years ago. Quote, this includes main battle tanks, artillery, Patriot air defense systems, helicopters, and Apache gunships, he told Middle Eastern Eye. Today, the UAE maintains only a limited presence made up of rotating advisory, intelligence, counter-terrorism, and reconnaissance personnel. This is not large-scale combat force and does not conduct major offensive operations. And on Tuesday morning, that's this morning, Saudi Arabia struck targets belonging to the Southern Transitional Council, the STC, in the port of Makvelia. The STC is a UAE-backed group that seeks an independent South Yemen. Okay? So this is where the clashing is taking place here. So you've got the UAE backing a Southern Transition Council that wants to independently break part of Yemen away from the traditionally from Yemen. So you already got the situation with the Houthis. Then you have obviously the government controlled Yemen, and you have this group here, which is being backed by UAE, while also they're being targeted by Saudi Arabia. And this is not the first time we've talked about the UAE being in hot water. We know that they have been supporting the Rapid Support Forces in Sudan. And that's obviously caused controversy, which they've continuously denied, even though there's been countless reports of this. Now we have once again, and Saudi Arabia are absolutely furious with UAE right now, which is not good in terms of all the Arab nations. Of course, they're not always. I understand not every nation's going to get along with each other, but the fact that that this is not the first time the UAE have been poking their nose and being on the wrong side of history. And let make no mistake about it, Saudi Arabia. We know exactly what Saudi Arabia have been doing, and their history speaks for itself. But this could, tensions are already high in the Middle East because of what Israel have been doing here. This is not helpful indeed. So Riyadh said it targeted weapons and vehicles that had arrived in Magdalena on ships originating in Fujitsu, a port city on the east coast of the UAE. It added that the weapons constituted an immediate threat, and therefore Saudi-led forces had conducted limited airstrikes targeting shipments offloaded from 2 vessels. So Mohammed Ashamigar, an STP representative, told MEE that the group disagreed with the assessment and said the attack targeted civilian infrastructure. So they claim that Saudi Arabia's attack targeted civilian infrastructure is what they claimed. And the Saudis have claimed this is now a threat to national security. So a few hours after the strike, they published a strong statement criticising UAE's role in Yemen. The Saudi Foreign Minister said it was disappointed by actions taken by the UAE's pressuring the STC to conduct military operations on Saudi Arabia's southern border in the Yemeni region of Hadramaliya. I can't say the names, guys, so I don't want to butcher them. I do apologise. It said that such actions were a threat to Saudi Arabia's national security and the security and stability of Yemen and the wider region. Quote, it says, the kingdom stresses that any threat to its national security is a red line. It says, do not hesitate to take all necessary steps and measures to confront and neutralise any such threat. Marks the strongest statement made by the kingdom since STC seized control of swathes of territory in southern Yemen earlier this month. UAE has backed the STC since 2017. To Baskia through diplomatic support, funding, military logistics and training. So this has been they've been supporting them since 2017. Here. So no worries, Viper Scott. Thanks for popping in. Appreciate it. I hope you have a good day, my friend. No worries. This support has been comprehensive. The analysts added the UAE's position, however, is that it does not control the STC's political end goals. UAE said it was surprised by the Saudi strike and that it rejected Riyadh's account. Abu Dhabi's foreign ministry said the strike was made without consulting other members of states of the Saudi-led coalition that intervened in the Yemeni war against the Houthis in 2015. It said that the target shipment was coordinated with Saudi Arabia and that it did not contain weapons, but rather vehicles intended to be used by UAE forces in the country. The UAE claims Saudi Arabia's statement contained fundamental inaccuracies. So the UAE are claiming, no, that's not what, they weren't weapons. They're saying, painting a different story here. UAE categorically rejects any attempts to imply in its tensions between Yemeni parties and condemns the allegations of pressuring or directing any Yemeni party to carry out military operations, the Emiri Foreign Ministry said, before later announcing its withdrawal from Yemen. So yeah, as we said, they're withdrawing from the country altogether. After Yemeni's war and the takeover of the capital Sanya and other areas north of the Houthis in 2014, the Aden-based STC has emerged as a key player among the anti-Houthi elements. Southern Yemen has for years been overseen by Presidential Leadership Council, the PLC, an executive government body that includes the STC, initially had both Saudi and the Emiri support. However, the body has long been riddled with internal disagreements and jostling. Let's also remember here, lots of people in Yemen as itself, as it fractures itself. Lots of innocent people have suffered in the country as the destabilization. When you have these conflicts, lots of conflicts been taking place. It's a country that really, we've talked a lot about the Houthis and what they've been doing. This is probably the first time on my channel that I've talked about the STC here. So earlier today, the head of the PLC called for immediate withdrawal from the Emiri forces from Yemen and cancelled the joint defence agreement with the UAE. Ashmaski, an STC official, said the PLC had no mandate to make such an announcement, and it is clear it's made an unilateral decision without any consensus from other PLC members. So we need to read more up on this, and I will look more into this next week. I'll definitely cover this in a video on Rumble, that's for sure. But it's clear that there has either been miscommunication or misunderstanding from Saudi Arabia, or the UAE are lying about what this is, and they're actually supporting. They've been supporting a coalition that's not in favour of Saudi Arabia here, but it certainly has created tension between the nations there. Like I said, I was watching a video earlier from Al Jazeera on this, and someone was saying, a spokesman basically from Saudi Arabia, not officially from the government, but basically saying that there's been tension for some time with the UAE, with Saudi Arabia, and this has kind of come to fruition, the boiling point of that. And again, I'll bring it back to even what they've been doing in Sudan. The UAE supporting the rapid support forces there. It really does, it feels like that the UAE are kind of, in my view, from the outside here, it does look like that they're poking their nose in business they shouldn't be getting involved with. However, you could say the same about Saudi Arabia and the long-standing situation that they've been doing inside Yemen as well. So it's a very complicated issue. Let me put it that way. I think it's the best way to say it there. I hope one day there's some kind of peace there, but I don't see anything happening anytime soon there. But it is interesting to see it from the outside perspective. I do need to read up more on the story as well, guys. I just want to make that quite clear as well. So on that one there. No worries, Viper Scott. It's good to see you there. From what I heard, they were supporting the return of the Shiad or Islam Mehdi, probably BS, says Mr. E there. Could be Israeli propaganda videos, EDAI, this video. Well, we're going to be touching on Israel on not one but two stories, actually, believe it or not. And we're going to be touching on two stories of them, but we'll come to Israel in a bit. There's something they did, I believe it was today or yesterday. Was it today they did the vote? Yeah, I think it was today they did the vote on Israel on something which is kind of unusual as well. We'll come to that in a bit, guys. I also just want to say thank you, Stephen Banker, for buying me a coffee today. I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And anybody else who has bought me a coffee or joined Patreon, like I said, anyone who does, their names get added to the scroll bar on the Good Morning Show. So your name has already been added, my friend. Anyone else buys me a coffee or joins the paid Patreon membership to financially support me, you guys your names get added to the bar. So your name gets mentioned as somebody who has contributed towards the channel. So while I'm currently demonetized. So thank you to anyone who does so. The links are in the description, obviously, if you want to contribute. But if not, just hitting the like, share, and subscribe, all that usual stuff, really helps support the channel, guys. So the next story I've got is one regarding Ukraine. So this is from NBC News here. So an alleged drone attack on Putin's residence offers the Kremlin a timely narrative shift. Russia's sudden accusation could be seen as a perfectly timed theatre, one analysis told NBC News. So this is, I want to be clear about this story here. So I honestly don't know if Ukraine actually did a drone attack on Putin's residence. But let's just say hypothetically that Ukraine did. All right? My response would be, so what? That would be my response. Because there have been multiple attempts by Russia to assassinate the Ukrainian president. We know that when they initially started the war, they were looking to eliminate Zelensky. There was possibilities that when they were seizing Kiev, in that first few day or two, when they rammed in with all their military, there were stories of whether or not Zelensky had been killed. They were killing. They wanted to kill the Ukrainian president, and they still want him dead this day. Let's be absolutely clear about that. Okay, They want him dead. That's always been the case, okay? So, all of a sudden, because a alleged attack on Putin's residence, trying to target the Russian president, and all of a sudden Trump grows a little hissy fit about it. And I'm just like, what's the matter with you? Like, this guy is the reason that Russian soldiers are dying every day. There's a reason why Russia's economy is in the fucking drain right now. There's a reason why so many people are suffering. Even North Korean soldiers, which may not have little care or disdain for, North Korean soldiers have lost their lives for this pointless, countless war. North Korean soldiers that have been sent over by Kim Jong-un to support this pathetic, needless, unnecessary war have died for Vladimir Putin, for his obsession of trying to bring back the Soviet Union. His obsession with it. Innocent people have died. Civilians, children, women have died as a result of the continuous bombardments that's caused by Vladimir Putin and his aggression that he has caused every day. Crimea was annexed in 2014. The entire population was shifted out of there and all put in his own people. He put his own population in there to make it Russian. He pushed out all the Ukrainians. Pushed them out. Because he wanted to make sure that that remains Russian. If it ever gets taken back. And here's the President of the United States growing a little hissy fit over a potential alleged drone attack on Putin's residence. Now, I don't like to advocate whatsoever for the deaths of anyone. Okay? But in war, yeah, there's a lot on the line here. Yeah, Ukraine's very country existence is on the line here. Like, it will be still Ukraine, but it will not be the Ukraine that its people want, or the governments or the leaders that it wants. It will be puppets, just like Belarus, under Russia's thumb, and they don't want that. The Ukrainian people do not want that. Zelensky was especially close to being taken out in 2022. Absolutely, Hoops. Absolutely. Good to see you there. I hope you're doing well. Absolutely. It's important to remind ourselves how many times that Zelensky, he's been targeted by Russia. All the time. People forget that. But because it's Putin, Russia will go into, whenever it happens, because he will die eventually, whether it will be of age or potential assassination, when it happens, Russia will really start. I wonder what's going to happen to Russia when he does, because right now everything is all on him. It's all on him. There can be no forgiveness. It is in fact insane to question whether this is a terrorist, whether this terrorist act took place at all. That was the previous message from Moscow on Tuesday as it doubled down on accusing Ukraine of targeting a presidential palace with drones in a bid to disrupt peace talks. Kiev has dismissed the allegations as a baseless lie aimed at building a pretext for the Kremlin to push ahead with its war. Russia had presented no public evidence for its claim, and the timing was not lost on observers in Kiev and Europe following the positive mood of President Donald Trump's weekend summit with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov announced late on Monday that 91 drones had been intercepted on their way to Putin's residence on the shores of Lake Vady in northern Novgorod region. He appeared to contradict earlier statements from Russia's defense ministry, which normally tallies the Ukrainian strikes that have become a daily reality. Russia had itself bombarded Ukrainian cities throughout the conflict. A total of 89 drones were intercepted over 8 Russian regions, including 18 over Novgorod, the defense ministry had said. It later reported that 23 additional drones had been intercepted over the region. But it was not until after Legorov's announcement that the ministry mentioned the alleged attack on Putin's residence, claiming that 49 drones were shot down over Braskis, a region nearly 300 miles away that also targeted Vadali. So this is apparently his residence here. This is a picture of it back in 2023, obviously. I mean, I suppose you could try and look it up on Google Earth, but yeah, good luck with that. No worries, Viper Scott. Thanks for Aliston Keir. Thanks for popping in. Appreciate it. I thought you said they've been saying that Russia's economy was on its arse for years. It has been on its arse for years, but what's going to happen to it when Putin kicks the can? What's going to happen to Russia when it kicks the can? Because right now, Putin is literally everything. Like everything, it's all hinges on him. And when he falls, like it's not like there's someone ready to take his place, is there? Like he doesn't have a son, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, like it's close. It's not doing well at all. But it's being held. But I've also said that Russia's economy in the as well, that it's been held up by the trade with India, with its oil, also with China. You can't stop trade between Russia and China, and also with North Korea. So Russia still has great trade agreements out there. They still have trade agreements out there that is helping the Russian economy, but it has become more isolated as well. But yeah, living in Russia is really brutal for people right now. So brutal. Asked about the existence of any wreckage, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov called it a matter for our military. He labelled Zelensky's dismissal of the attack and doubts raised in Western media completely insane. Well, you haven't showed us any evidence, so Russia's diplomatic position will be toughened as a consequence of the attack. Peskov says our armed forces know how and when to respond, he added. He's not there's no footage. You not provide any footage, any pictures. Chances are, if they do provide any of it, it's probably going to be AI or fake imagery or something like that, you know. Vlachkov Vudugan, speaker for Russia's lower house of parliament, the Duma, also vowed that there can be no forgiveness for Zelensky. Frantically, coverage of the story has toppled newscasts on state TV channels. Yeah, propaganda. Basically, everyone's saying they're trying to take out the Russian leader. Putin has no made secret of his determination to press on with the war if a deal does not grant his hardline demands. The Kremlin would not comment on the Russian leader's whereabouts during the alleged attack. Hours earlier, he appeared at the latest televised meeting with battlefield commanders, seemingly aiming and projecting to domesticate and foreign audiences that Russia has the upper hand in the war and will take territory it wants by force that if it can't get it at the negotiating table. Zelensky has engaged in his own measuring campaign, and his meeting with Trump in Florida on Sunday was viewed as a success for Ukraine despite the lack of clear breakthrough. Russia's sudden accusations should be seen as perfectly timed theatre, said Matthew Ford, an associate professor in war studies at the Swedish Defence University in Stockholm. Putin is trying to engineer enough cover for the Trump administration to enable him to press on with his hardline demands, while avoiding having the US take Ukraine's side, Ford said. Trump has learned about the alleged attack directly from Putin and was very angry about it. Yeah, because obviously Putin would never lie to Donnie, guys. He would never lie to his good friend Donald Trump. I don't like it, Trump told reporters when asked if he was worried about the alleged attack that could affect his efforts to broker peace. After there is any evidence of the attack, Trump says, "We'll find out." Ukraine insists there is none. Almost a day passed and Russia hasn't provided any plausible evidence, the foreign minister has said. And they won't, because there is none. No such attack happened. Trump's reaction hits a nerve, particularly at a delicate moment for Ukraine. Zelensky touted success on Monday in obtaining long-term security guarantees from the US that would be legally binding and help prevent a future Russian attack. Trump had offered Ukraine security guarantees for at least 15 years, he said, while Kiev was asking for as much as 50. Hey, 15 years is more than enough time for Ukraine to recover. And Europe will be beefed up by then as well. But later, when asked whether American troops would be deployed in Ukraine, Zelensky told reporters on WhatsApp that he had discussed this with Trump, but the final decision lay with the president. We would like this, Zelensky said. It would be a strong complement of security guarantees. Yeah, you're not going to get American troops on Ukrainian soil. That's not going to happen. We can get European ones, but Trump's not going to agree to that. White House did not respond to NBC's news request for comment. He was asked about this in the past. They're not going to agree to this. I don't expect them to agree to this. There is no abstract issue for Ukraine, whose city are being bombarded nearly daily by Russia, resulting in civilian deaths and damage even as negotiations continue. Trump's quickness to repeating Russia's claims underlines that Kiev needs to understand exactly what security guarantees it's getting and how it would work. For Yuskis and others, the Kremlin claims appears little more than another false flag operation, raising concerns that it could repeat the strategy in the future to violate a truce without being stopped by those enforcing those deals. Literally anything to sabotage the deal, like Israel would always do with its deal with Hamas there, you know. We already have a declaration when we gave up the world's third biggest nuclear arsenal, referring to the failure of the 1994 Budapest Memorandum, co-signed by the US, to protect his homeland from being invaded by Russia. We need something more than a neatly written piece of paper. Phillips O'Brien, a professor of strategic studies at the University of St Andrews in Scotland, agreed, quote, "The Ukrainians cannot trust the US government's treaty pledges at all," he said. They already have those, and they were meaningless. That is true. Yeah, Trump. You can't trust America. That you can't trust. Let me put it this way: you can't trust this administration. You can't trust this administration. Perhaps a future one, maybe. Perhaps a future one, maybe. Congress limits troops withdrawals from Europe. They've told Trump no. The US to keep 78,000 troops in and around Europe, mainly Baltics and Poland. Yeah. Thank you for that, Hoops. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just don't see American troops on Ukrainian soil personally. I just don't personally see it. But maybe it will. Maybe it will in the future. But I don't personally see it. As for what's happening right now, obviously Russia still continues to take territory. They continue to throw away lives, relying on foreign troops as well from North Korea. It's getting tough. It's getting tough for Ukraine because, for every soldier, every Ukrainian soldier dies. It really is a painful loss for them. It's a painful loss for them, and they are losing territory. It's a real struggle for them. It's a real struggle for Ukraine because they are still ceding territory. It's slow, yes, but they are still ceding territory, and every day civilians are dying in the country. Every day. This war, this is the one thing I definitely agree with Donald Trump. This war needs to end. But the problem is that Russia will not agree to wants territory that it has no right to. That's the problem with all this. The problem all lies with Putin. As does the current situation in Gaza to a certain extent. So Israeli strikes on Gaza are relentless as displaced endured flooded camps. Israeli attacks violating the ceasefire agreement are reported across Gaza as Palestinian misery compounded by the rain. So there is I don't know how many times I need to repeat myself, but I know we haven't discussed this over the Christmas period too much here, but there has been improvements in some aid getting to Palestinian people when it comes to food and some of the basics, which is a good thing. It's not enough, but it's a good thing. We need some of the positives, but they're not getting basic. There are some things they're just not getting that could really help them. And at the moment, there's been lots of rainstorms, lots of flooding, and it's been brutal. The temperatures have been getting colder. They don't have any heating. They've got no heating. There's no power in Gaza. There's no way for Palestinians to keep themselves warm apart from trying to wrap a bunch of blankets around them and hope for the best. Some of them don't even have a tent. So some of them are stuck out in the cold, just wrapped up in whatever and just trying to keep it together. That's what a lot of people are in. And not only that, we still have airstrikes still taking place. We still have bombings taking place. So what happened to the meeting between Netanyahu and Trump? Nothing. People were pleading with Trump to do something about it, and it's just fallen on deaf ears. What a surprise. What a surprise. Remember, Israel have, this year, in 2025, they have bombed and whatnot of Gaza. They've done the same to Yemen, to Yemen, in the Houthi rebels there. In Lebanon, as well. They also targeted Iraq, as well. They've also allegedly targeted boats belonging to both Tunisia and Portugal as well, allegedly, as well. Have I missed any other country they've not targeted? Oh, Syria, of course. Of course, another country, Syria, as well, has also been targeted by Israel. So Israel have targeted multiple countries this year. And have they paid any accountability for them, guys? Any accountability whatsoever for anything that they've done? No. None at all. Yeah. We're very important to remember that. So Israeli forces have carried out strikes across the Gaza Strip as they continue with their near daily violation of the ceasefire agreement. Israel's genocidal war on the besieged enclave continuously apace and displaced Palestinians enduring the destruction of their few remaining possessions in flooding brought by heavy winter rains. Israeli airstrikes on Tuesday target locations in the north of Rafah and the east of Khan Yunis, the Mazagai camp in central Gaza, and Bein Liar in the north of the Strip. Al Jazeera's Hein has reported there. Reporting from Gaza City, Conrad said artillery shelling had been reported in the territory's southern and central regions, while there's also been an attack on the Gaza City neighborhood of Shanghalia, striking close to the tent of a displaced family. She said the latest attacks in violation of the US brokered ceasefire that came into force in October numbered nearly 1,000 now. We're coming at a time of immense hardship for hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians as heavy rain and strong wind ravaged their makeshift camps, destroying the few possessions they have left. Gaza's media office said on Sunday that Israel had committed 669 ceasefire violations since it came into effect on October 10th, resulting in the death of 418 civilians and injuries and more than 1,100. And what's being done about this? Nothing. Palestinians are still very much traumatized and anxious. The situation on the ground continues to deteriorate as the rain continues. This is what they're living in. Aid groups have repeatedly called for Israeli authorities to lift restrictions to allow more supplies, including its shelter equipment into the territory where displaced families have been trying to stay dry in flimsy, battered tents that offer scant protection from the elements after months of use. Families here are helpless while the Israeli authorities continue to restrict all kinds of shelter into the Gaza Strip. Officials have warned that the severe conditions also bring new dangers, with the threat of disease and illness as overwhelmed and damaged sewage systems contaminating floodwaters, as well as the risk that buildings could collapse amid heavy rain and wind. At least 2 people have been killed and damaged structures failing amidst severe weather in recent days. In a displacement camp east of Deir al-Bahir in central Gaza, heavy rain in recent days has left tents submerged in muddy water, destroyed by few possessions that the families had taken with them from their homes. Inside the tents, an Al Jazeera team found essential items like pillows, mattresses, and bed covers soaked in muddy water. The tent had been flooded, said a resident. I took my family out, but I couldn't even get a blanket, a mattress, or a bag of flour. I have no way to sleep with my children or keep them warm. Another man said he had lost his son and daughter as well. He's home to Israel's genocidal war and is still suffering amid the severe conditions. I fled to this place. Does this mean the war is over? He said. No, we are still suffering. We haven't slept for 2 days because of the heavy rain. Reporting from the camp, Al Jazeera's Imran al-Khalidi said the winter storms have brought a new chapter of suffering for the Palestinians who have been plunged into humanitarian crisis by Israel's war. What is meant to be temporary shelter for them has turned into a flooded trap, he said. And what's the world doing about this, guys? Nothing. Nothing again. We're still standing by and supporting Israel while they continue to do this. But the mainstream media, like the mainstream media, they don't want to tell you that this is still happening. They don't want to tell you this. They want you to believe that the ceasefire's done. Everyone can stop thinking about Palestine. Stop thinking about the Middle East. It's all over, guys. You don't need to talk about it. We can go somewhere else now. We can talk about other things now. Ever since the ceasefire, they've been trying so hard to suppress the mainstream media, suppressing what's happening. It's still happening. It's still happening what's happening inside Gaza. People are still dying on a daily basis, still suffering on a daily basis. But they don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that. Nothing. They don't want you knowing nothing. They don't want people talking about it. They don't want people covering it. They want people hush, hush and quiet, quiet. Israel doesn't want people talking about what's happening inside Gaza. They don't want any discussion. But the likes of Al Jazeera, Middle East Eye, and others are still covering what's going on. And it's important that we remember what's going on. And I will be talking about it more on Rumble, because it needs to be acknowledged that this is still happening. Speaking of Israel, as we head into our final story here. It's a very fascinating story here. Now, I don't know a lot about the history here, but I'm going to let the video play for... can I do that? Yeah, I can do that. You can. Lighting's not too bad. I'll take the head off because I wanted to share this with you guys here. So this is from Africa News. The United Nations Security Council has been divided over Israel's recognition of Somaliland here. So I'm going to play the video and then we'll just have a discussion about this, guys.
The UN Security Council is sharply divided after most members slammed Israel's recognition of Somaliland, warning of regional fallout and implications for Palestinians in Gaza. Israel, however, remains undeterred, standing by its move.
Mr. President, the question raised by Israel's recognition of Somaliland is not whether international law permits acknowledgement of long-established facts. It does. The question is whether this Council is ready to engage with reality as it exists. Somaliland's historical sovereignty, more than 3 decades of effective self-governance, and demonstrated capacity to act as a responsible international partner meet the legal criteria that guide recognition. Israel has aligned its foreign policy with this reality.
Israel can't talk shit about reconciliation of other nations, considering what it's been doing and literally what we've just been discussing about how they've been treating a certain state that many international bodies recognise inside Gaza as Palestinian state. They have no right to talk about this. Yeah. Now, I may not know a lot about what's happening in Somalia and Somaliland, but let me just say this: they have no fucking right to talk about a nation that when talk about this and recognise Somaliland. When what knowledge do they have about what's going on here? It's quite clear for me that they are looking, in my view, to kind of deflect as well. And Somalia did not take too kindly to this as well.
Somalia, for its
and rightfully so,
part, has firmly rejected Israel's recognition of Somaliland.
Thank you, Mr. President. He has no idea what Somali is and where Somalis are and what Somali stands for. I think the history is a selective history that he has just generated on his own mind. To come to this place and lecture us humanity and genocide and human rights and independence and democracy, and we know what you're doing on a daily basis, is just an insult.
The emergency meeting followed Israel becoming the first and only country to recognize Somaliland as an independent state. The region broke away from Somalia in 1991 after civil war under military ruler Siad Barre.
Look, I don't know a lot about this. It's the writing is pretty much essentially what was said in the video there. But what I will say is that it's a very complicated situation, and I think Israel, for what it is really, they really have no fucking right, and I really mean this, no fucking right to dictate what is and isn't recognized state. They of all the countries to be saying this, it has to be them. You know, they have no fucking right whatsoever, Israel. They really have not. And they are nothing more than a bunch of bloody hypocrites, considering how they've been treating certain groups in not just in Gaza, but in the West Bank as well. So I don't think anyone could be taking any lectures of it. Obviously, I don't know enough about the history of Somalia, so it's not my place to. I'm not going to say whether or not I'm in favour of or against it. What I will say is that it's up to the people who live in those lands to decide, should be allowed to decide their own futures under the rules of governments that are in their interest. But I'm pretty confident that I can say this, that pretty much a lot of people who are in power in those lands are not doing it in the favour of people. In fact, lots of people have been suffering and struggling as a result. And we know that a lot of aid goes towards Somalia because they do obviously struggle to look after its people there. So yeah, it's not a country that's doing well, not doing well for itself here. Lecture us humility, well said. Yeah, he absolutely tore him up, and rightly so there. Yeah, the Somalian speaker is telling it like it is. Yes, says Kirsty. Yeah. Yeah. Here he is covering it, telling about Israel breaking the truce and killing people. Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, we've got just one more thing to show. I've got one more thing for you guys before we head ourselves out. As I said, I only had 5 stories to cover here today, but just before we do, I'm just going to go and have a quick check See if anyone decided to join the Patreon or buy me a coffee, because I just want to acknowledge them if they have here on the live stream. It doesn't look like we've had tonight, but that's okay. But I appreciate those who have so far. So much appreciated indeed. So we've got 5 funny memes to share with you guys. This is something that something that I always do on this live stream. For those who don't know, I give you guys 5 funny memes, and you can take them as a laugh or not. It's entirely up to you if you want to take them. But this is what we do on Global News here. Just a little something a little bit different on here on this live stream in particular. So hopefully you guys will get a laugh out of these. Why are you not popping up? Please pop up. There we go. I'm just making sure that they are playing up there. 1 second. Just making sure they're all okay. All right. Okay. Let's see how these funny memes go. Kirsty, they are in the description. They're in the description if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to, the links for them are in the description. They're the Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon, whichever, either one. If you want to, you don't have to. Gmail, someone has signed into your account. Yeah, that was me. No, it was on another device. Yes, it was my tablet. Someone stole your tablet. What? No! Call the police! I can say categorically I've not suffered this as a Gmail, as someone who uses Gmail accounts, but I would not be surprised if something like this happened to someone here. I do get those emails where it says someone has signed into your account, and it's like, yes, it's me, it's okay. Me showing the new person at work how to do things that I don't even know how to do myself. Yeah, mate. So if I just take you over here and I'll show you things around here. Yeah, you know. Another actor ruined by drugs and alcohol. Rest in peace, Thomas. Rest in peace. Can't believe it, guys. This is what, you know, drugs and alcohol, they destroy our childhoods, and Thomas has been destroyed here. Absolutely terrible. They even took his chimney away, guys. They even took his chimney away. Sleep for 8 hours. Work for 8 hours. That's only 14 hours out of 24. You still have 10 hours to cook amazing meals, work out, learn a language, and walk on the beach. Time is not the issue. Yes, time is not the issue. Maths is. Have you calculated the math problem here, guys? Give you guys a minute to see the math problem. And you've clocked it. That's right. That's right. Me. I'll get a dog to watch the house. This is my dog whilst our house is getting robbed. I got you to watch over the house, not to sleep and do nothing. Stupid dog. Ah. Does look cute, by the way. But he's supposed to be watching the house. Damn it, dog. Damn it. Failed. Failed at his job. He's supposed to be man's best friend. Man's best friend failed us, guys. Man's best friend failed us. That's for sure. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Right, guys. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who came along tonight. Thank you guys for all your comments. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. I hope you found some of the content I covered tonight informative, useful, and helpful to you. I really hope it did. I appreciate you guys' support as always. Like I said, I'll be back live tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. for New Year's Eve. So if you want to join me for that, feel free to do so as well. And of course, a reminder, link in the description. I've got a very special New Year's Eve special video dropping tomorrow evening. So please do check out that video. I will remind you tomorrow morning of that. Please do check it out. It is a premiere video, so you guys can hang out in the live chat. I won't personally be there for it, but if you guys want to hang out on New Year's Eve for a little bit, on this channel, you can do. Come together for a bit, guys, because I wanted to do something for you guys for New Year's Eve at least. Just unfortunate that I won't be here for it. So thank you guys all for coming along. Enjoy the rest of your evening. But before I go, if you can for me, please hit that like button. Share this across social media. Subscribe if you haven't to already. Do check out links down below as well. And I will be bringing back content to both Rumble and Patreon next week as well. And we'll be going. And next, we got a lot happening next month, guys. We have got Van Man Talks with a live stream on Thursday the 8th, guys. They're very excited for that. The following week, on the 15th, Thursday the 15th, we have the round table. We have myself, Daily Blase, Dave McGuinness, and Graham Price, Power to the People. Yes, guys, we're coming round together for another roundtable discussion. That is on Thursday, the 15th of January. Join us for that. And then on the 22nd of January, the following Thursday, myself and One Angry Pagan with the Eco Flake Show, coming back to you with another Eco Flake Show. It's been a while since we've done one. We're going to be bringing that back late in January. And then finally, guys, on the 29th, Thursday the 29th, guys, I'm going to be doing something called the Non-Politics live stream. Something I'm going to be testing out the waters. And we're going to be doing, not going to cover mental health. We're not going to be covering politics. We're going to do like a specific area or subject of something that we're going to talk about. And this one we're going to be doing is going to be on films, on movies, cinema, that kind of stuff. And we're going to be discussing about films. I want you guys to share some of yours. That's what we're going to be talking about on Thursday's live stream, guys. A non-political live stream where, guys, so if you want to join me for that, if you love films, do join me for that, guys. That'll be Thursday at 8 p.m. on the 29th of January. You can check out the home tab for all the links for all of when. If you go onto the home tab here on this channel, you can see when all these scheduled live streams are, so you'll know when they are going live for your convenience wherever you are in the world, guys. Please watch some Larry Dickens videos, Regan, if I get a chance. I'm my friend. But yeah, if you guys want to support Sir Larry the Cat, yeah, you can do so as well. Do check out his content as well. Yeah, I'm sure he does some good stuff there. And Max Robespierre will be going live in about half an hour's time or 25 minutes time. So do join him for his live stream if you can do as well. But I'm out, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. And I hope to catch you all very, very soon.